Hi friends, today I am going to show you how you can learn TypeScript within a short duration of time. So we need to know first what is TypeScript. TypeScript is an open source programming language and it is the typed superset of JavaScript. Whenever any program is written in TypeScript, it basically compiles down to plain JavaScript and it is executed. Now, why we should go for TypeScripts and what are the main advantages we are going to gain when we use TypeScripts. In TypeScript, we have class and module support where we can write the complex business logics or business modules using TypeScript with class concepts. Then there is optional static type checking. Or whenever you will be writing code, at the time of compilation, it will uh, have the static type check, and as a result, it will be of less error prone. Whenever we write anything in JavaScript, uh, during the runtime only, if any type check issue is there, that is get to known, whereas in TypeScript, whenever at the time of development we get to know whether any error is there or not. So the development is more time and debugging is less time, which gives enough time for the developer to spend during development, which is a advantage of TypeScript over JavaScript. There is the whole library API definition is there when we go for TypeScript, which provides us capability of actually uh, have the enhanced robust features of TypeScript. Uh, the built-in packaging of JavaScript is actually there with TypeScript, which makes the developer's life easier during the development phase. Whenever we will be working on TypeScripts, the major advantage we can get is the syntax of TypeScript is mostly like the backend programming languages like Java, which is again an advantage for any new developer to start working on TypeScript. It is a superset of JavaScript with lot of enhanced features which we should be covering when we will deep dive into the TypeScript's features and various capabilities. It has enhanced IDE support. With the IDE we get intelligence support of when we type something, it gives us the options of what could be the possibilities. And the last benefit which I have captured here is its rapid growth and uses. TypeScript is a main component which is used in Angular, Vue and React these days. You see it across all the IT industries. It has got very fast growth and usage across many platforms. Now let's start with how and uh, where we should begin the development process. In order to do that, we need to first install Node.js. For installing Node.js, you need to go to the site called nodejs.org, and from there you can install the latest stable version. I have already installed Node in my system, so I can show you. If I type node -v, it will tell me what version is already installed. After installation of Node.js into your system, if you type node-v, you will be able to see the version is successfully installed here. Next, you need to go to install Typescript. In order to install Typescript, you need to put the command something like this after installation of node: npm install -g Typescript. I have already installed, so I am not running this, but if you put this command, it will install the Typescript package on the top of node. After you successfully install Typescript into your system, if you put esc-v, you can see the version of Typescript which is installed. After Typescript installation, you need to install an editor in order to execute your program. In order to do that, my recommendation for you will be to go to the site code.visualstudio.com and you can install Visual Studio as per your machine. I have Windows machine, so the latest stable version for Windows I have installed into my system. Once after installation, if you open up the Visual Studio code base, you will see something like this. Once you have installed Visual Studio, we can now start writing the first program in Typescript. So today we are going to cover up the variable declarations, variable types, multiple data types, functions, interfaces, class, and access modifiers. Let's first start writing a Typescript code. I have created a folder in my Visual Studio code editor, and inside that let me create one Typescript file called my.es. As I already mentioned, Typescript is a superset, typed superset of JavaScript. Whatever code is written in JavaScript can absolutely be executed fine when we convert into Typescript. That is a major advantage of the existing projects of JavaScript can easily be migrated into the Typescript projects. Now, whatever code you write in JavaScript, if you type in Typescript, will work absolutely fine. Let me just first write some Typescript code, like how you write var message equals to, let's say you write something hi, and then let me just put that console.log to print the message. This is the regular JavaScript code. Now, this JavaScript code will work with this Typescript. In order to compile your code, you need to save it first, and then Let's open up the terminal by hitting Control Quote, and then if you type tsc file name dot ts, then it will compile into the JavaScript file. You can see here a JavaScript file is created. Now if you look at this JavaScript code, it is exactly same as what we have written in the TypeScript. Now next step is to run your code. In order to do that, you need to do node my.js. Please remember, whenever the file is executed, it is the JavaScript file which is executed. Even without using .js, we can execute it. And for executing it, you do not need any browser. On the terminal itself of our Visual Studio code editor, we can see the output. Now let me follow the TypeScript standard to initialize the variable. Now this is how we initialize using let. You can see a error message is appearing here telling cannot declare block scoped variable message. Usually when we write any TypeScript program, it doesn't consider it as a module. Rather, it is treated as a script file, because of which the scope is unable to be identified. In that case, what we can do is, if we just write the logic, we will just export and not do anything, then this error will be gone. When we save this file and then compile, and then go and check how the JS file look like, you can see the JS file also gets changed. Now when we are actually writing any code or any logic, we need to understand what does let do and what does constant do, and these are the basics of data types in TypeScript programming language. Another important thing is, which this intelligence editor provides the feature that we can keep our TS file auto compiled by keeping it in watch mode. In order to do that, what we need to do is, we need to write tsc file name and then # watch. So now this will be in watch mode. When the application is in watch mode, we do not have to again compile ourselves. Whenever some code will be written and the file will be saved, it will automatically get compiled, and when we execute it, we can see the output. Now if I change something here, you can see hi main I am typing, and I will just save this file. You can see it automatically gets compiled. Now let me execute this in another new terminal. Node my, you can see it is showing hi man. That means whatever changes I did without recompilation explicitly, the watch mode of this intelligence feature compiled it automatically, and that when we execute we see the output. Now let's proceed ahead with the variable declarations. How we initialize a variable? We generally use let to initialize any variable, and when we initialize the variable, we can also specify what data types the variable is going to be. Let declare a variable called x, and I want to make it as number type, and I can make the declaration and initialization together like this. When we use let, we can just have the declaration, and initialization we can do at any other step, and we can reinitialize as per our programming convenience. It will absolutely not having any issue. Now if you print x, and then let me save this file, and if we run it, then you can see the last initialized value is getting printed. Now you need to understand what is the difference between let and const. Let, when we initialize, it is not mandatory. When we actually declare, it is not mandatory to initialize the value, but when we go for const, it has to be initialized and it cannot be reinitialized again. You can see the editor's intelligence is giving options and showing const number declaration must be initialized. You cannot declare a const type variable without initializing it. Let me now initialize the value with something, and you cannot reinitialize again of the const type. That is why it is showing error. If you save the file and run the application, you can see the value as 78. Next, we will discuss about null and undefined types. Null and undefined types are itself assigned to any type. They are before null and undefined type, we need to know the other types would be number, string, and boolean. Similarly, you want to let's say make it as a string, then you can make it some string here. It will absolutely work correct. If you want to declare it as boolean, you can do that, and you can initialize as some boolean value. It will absolutely print. Let me save it and run the application to show you the value. Now any data type of values, any data type like string, boolean, or number. If we want to set with null or undefined, we can do that. However, null and undefined itself are a value. So usually what happens whenever we have something, let's say we have let n, let's declare it as of type null equals to null. Let n of type undefined, this is absolutely fine and it is no issue. Also, what we can do is any data type, let's say this n of number data type I want to set as null, I can do that. But this initialization of undefined null is usually done in a program when we don't want to set the value of that particular variable when or at the beginning of its initialization. Then that time we use null and undefined. Next, another data type is the array. In order to declare the array types, what we can do is let me declare an array variable as array. Let's say I want to declare a array of numbers, then I can do that by writing 1 2. Another way of initializing array is, let me make it array 1, array, and let me do this. The first one we did using number. Let me do this using string so that you will also get to know that with any data type the initialization can happen. You need to put the array of strings within your square brackets. Now if you print you will see it is in watch mode, so automatically it will get compiled whenever I will say. If you go to the other PowerShell node, you can see it is automatically getting compiled, showing found 0 errors. Now I can simply execute it and you can see here it is printing 1 2, and if you want to print array 1, then you can see A, B, C got printed. There is another uh, type, that is tuple. Using tuple, you can have the uh, fixed variables data types within a single element. In order to do that, let me just initialize a tuple data type with fixed type of string and number. This is similar like an array, but here you are defining that my first element in that array will be a string and second element will be a number. So you are telling here that it should be having a fixed set of values with this data type. So when you have to initialize the values, you need to mention, or you need to ensure that first variables value should be a string and second should be a number. Then you can see the error gone and compiler doesn't have any objection. But if you type to change the sequence, or if you want to keep both as number, then it will throw error and it will not allow to successful compilation. If I change this to number, it will be absolutely fine. Now, important point is a enum. What is the use of enum? Using of enum is again a set of user-friendly names or notations with numeric values associated with it. In order to initialize enum type, what we need to type is enum. Let's say I will type color enum, and with parentheses I need to tell black, comma, red, comma, white. This is how my enum got initialized. By default, the first value is set with 0 numeric value, the second will be 1 and third will be 2 and so on, unless we specify what exactly is the number it starts from. If I will mention black equals to 6, then it will start from 6, 7, 8 like that. If I set something else to red, let's say red to 8, then it will make red as 8 and then white will be 9. Now let's print it to see. Let me initialize an enum of type color equals to color dot and let them print this enum value, and you can see you can see it is printing 0. Now if you change this black to white, you can see the value will be 2. Now if you want to set some different value that should be taken from here, let me set as 89 for example, and then if I run this, it is showing white value as 89, 90, 91. You can see here it is having 91 value. Next type we need to discuss is any and unknown. Any and unknown are generally used when we don't know what type the variable should take at the time of its declarations. Let me just show you an example. Let any val, I don't know what value it can hold, so I can just declare like this. That means in future any val can be assigned with a number, any val can be assigned with a string, or can be assigned with a boolean value. Where is exactly this any type is used? Whenever any third-party library or projects are getting associated to the TypeScript project, where we don't have any visibility or we don't know what type of data is going to be flown into that variable, then that is set as any, and with using type of we can actually figure out whether it is a number or string or boolean. If you want to print any val, you can check in console. That it is picking whatever value is assigned recently. You can see whatever was assigned, it is come. Another one is unknown. Unknown behaves in the same way as that of any, but when we mark this unknown, we have to infer the type, telling what it is going to take when it will come into use, otherwise it will throw error. So if you are marking it as any value as unknown and you want to do any operations on any value here, then you can see intelligent support from the editor is unavailable because it doesn't know what value is going to be associated to that. So it is always important that we should tell what value it is going to take. So we are not getting any support whether it will be considered as a number or string or anything else. In order to do type inference, what we can do is we can mention any val as, let's say, string, and then if we put dot, we will see the string specific functions can be applicable. If we make it as number, then you can see the number specific operations are available on this variable name. On any, you can set any value, but whenever you are setting up as unknown, you need to typecast or type inference to that particular variable during its actual uses. Now we will go to cover union of types. So union of types is very much usable when we need to define some multi-type variables. So when we do have to assign with a variable the multi-types, and we need to use a union of types concept using the pipeline character. By doing this, we can assign to multi-t any number. At the same time, we can assign to multi-t with any string as well. That is the beauty of multi-types while we use the union of types. So that covers as of now as the variable types and multiple data types. Next, go to functions. Generally, when we use any function concept in JavaScript, what do we use? We use function. Let me just use a normal add functions with two parameters as n1 and n2, and then let me just return the addition of n1 plus n2. Now when you are going to define a function in Typescript, what you need to tell is, if you want to make this you want to make the first parameter as number, then you can do so by telling number, and let me just initialize the second parameter as number as well, and you need to return the value in Typescript. That means you need to specify what will be your return type. Let me just put into console.log. Then I should see 49 should be displayed. You can see. what is default parameterized function and what is optional parameterized function. In this particular function, if we set as n2 parameter, the default value is 20. If you will make a call to this function with one parameter, then also it will work, and with two parameters it will work. In one parameter, when you will pass, then n2 value will be defaulted as 20, and the output you will be able to see as 45 plus 20 as 65. If we run the program now again, you can see 65. This is about how you can make the default parameterized function. Now, for optional parameterized functions, you can actually make the particular parameter as optional when somebody will call. In order to do this, what we can do is n2 we just need to mark as, so you can see the error gone, and now the second parameter becomes optional parameter. We will then cover how to use the interface in the Typescript. Interface basically allows us to specify an object of a type, and then that can be used as a generic type across all the subsequent calls or items. I'm going to tell you now how you can define an interface using some name as person. Let me just set an interface with name as person, and then first name is string, last name again as string. Using this interface concept, we can initialize, let's just declare first a function to print full name. The parameter of this we can make as person. Let's just make this as console.log will print person let's just use the dollar parameterized concepts to use ps dot first name and then some space and then again dollar ps dot last name. Now let me initialize a person type object with let ps1 let ps1 equals to first name is let's say Ras and last name is Sekhar. Now if we make a call of print full name with ps1 object, then we can see Rajsakar. So this is the standard way how a interface can be declared, and then the use of this particular object as a type and use in this function to print the full name of this. Next we are going to cover the class. As you already know, when we write any class code in Java or anywhere else, in the same way we can declare a class. Let's say I'm declaring a class empty with two members. One is id as number and I'm using a constructor and taking the id as and as you know we just set the class variables inside the constructor. Similarly, I am going to function to just print the employee ID value. I using dollar variable, you can just this dot id. Now in a similar fashion, how you initialize a Java object, you can initialize an object using new keyword, new emp is passing the id as constructor value, let's say 34, and then if you try to print console.log emp.id, it will print this id value, which is the member, and then you can also make a call to emp.showId. Now if we execute our code, we can see when you put console.log empid, it printed 34 first, and then when you print console.log empid, it printed 34, and then when you call showId function, then it print high and whatever value was initialized. Now the last piece we are going to discuss is access modifiers. We have access modifiers like public, protected, and private access. If we define a variable as private, then it cannot be accessed outside a class. That is why it started objecting. But if you make it as a public variable, then it can be accessible here. And protected access modifier is generally used in the inheritance concept. When one class inherits another class, then that time the protected members can be accessed in the subclasses. So with that, we just finished with the basic fundamentals concepts of TypeScript, and now after practicing all these code, you are ready to deep dive into in-depth concepts of TypeScript. Hope this video helps you learning as a beginner. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like it, please like and share the video.